Hey everyone, welcome back to Fatherland. So on this episode, I'm gonna go through some of the things that we, recently had a child, and there's a lot of things we did. And looking back on it, there's a few things that I would change, and I thought I'd go through like a top 10 list and kind of share with you the things that we would change, and hopefully that will help you guys with your pregnancy. Before I begin though, there's two things I want to tell you. I recently uploaded to my YouTube channel a video that if you have a child that's fussy or having a trouble sleeping, I would recommend you guys play this for them. It's kind of like white noise. I found this really helps my son sleep at night. Number two, if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe. It really helps me when you do that. Number one on my list, guys, and this is probably something that I really would change if I could do it all over again, and that would be going with a private practice for my OB. And the reason is, the one we picked, it was like a corporate OB, and what I mean by that is we didn't have a dedicated doctor specifically. It was just like whoever showed up that day. So every time we went in for an appointment, it was always a different doctor, and we never got to build like a personal relationship with that person. So it was very frustrating. On top of that, this was like a huge problem. So my wife, she's like, more like a heavy set, right? And so people assume just because of that she's got high blood pressure. So every time we would go there, they would, jump to the conclusion that she's got high blood pressure. And then, as you can imagine, when your doctor assumes that you have high blood pressure, it's going to upset you, right? So at that point, my wife would be upset. She would have high blood pressure, because the thing is, guys, I come from a family that has high blood pressure, and so I've always been amazed about this. My wife, she always has low blood pressure. So can you imagine when you go to the doctor's office and they assume this? It's very upsetting. So then when the time comes to check your blood pressure, obviously you've been worked up, now you have high blood pressure, and then they would always bring that up as an issue, right? And tell her that she needs to lose weight and do this and this and this. And so then she would tell them that prior to leaving the house, she would check her blood pressure. She always has low blood pressure. So you can imagine when she gets to the doctor's office and they're harping on it, it can be very annoying, and then they don't believe her. So what ends up happening at the later stage in the pregnancy is that if you have high blood pressure, they're going to send you to the hospital to have your blood pressure checked. So they, have you lay on the bed, tied up to all these machines. And so they sent my wife to these couple of times, and what would happen is she, of course, now she's relaxed and she has low blood pressure, and then they inform our OB, and the OB's like, in shock that she's got low blood pressure. And so it was always like a repeat incident every time we went to the OB, where she now knows that there's going to be this kind of adversarial relationship, and then she's got high blood pressure because of the fact that they don't really like each other. But here's the kicker, right? Once you get later in the pregnancy, you can't switch OBs, and the reason is no new one will accept you, because now you have an established history with this OB during the pregnancy. And so when it's like 7, 8, 9 months, no new one will take you. So you can't just quit that OB's office. You're stuck with them until the baby's born. I will say this though, it's rare, but some OBs will accept new patients in the later stages of the pregnancy, but often it's very hard to switch. And so you can imagine, for us, we wanted to switch because we were kind of frustrated with these people. So as you can imagine, it created a very stressful pregnancy for us, because the doctor that my wife is going, they don't like each other. And so I would recommend for you guys in the future, if you're going to be pregnant, or you're pregnant now, find an OB that you can get along with. Ideally a private practice, because this is such an important thing, having a child, and you want it to be a pleasant experience, and you want to make sure the person that you're going to the appointment every week with is a person you actually like, and then they listen to you and of all your concerns. So number 2 on my list, guys, and that's timing for insurance. So what I mean by that is you want to make sure you have your baby and everything all in one calendar year. The reason is, for example, so if you pay your deductible in 2019, but you have your baby like us in 2020, so now we end up paying 2 deductibles, and it costs us a lot more money out of pocket just to have the baby. Now I know that's not easy to plan, but if you can, try to aim it for 1 calendar year everything. So number 3 is related to number 2. So number 3, guys, is the tax benefits. And what I mean by that is, once again, take us as an example, right? So we had most of our pregnancy stuff done in 2019, but we had our baby in January of 2020. So because of that, all the tax benefits from having a baby, we're not going to be able to actually benefit from it until 2021. Remember guys, we humans have it down to a science having a baby. So ideally, you want to start planning on having a baby, or trying to have a baby, I mean, around November or December, so that way the baby's born before the next calendar year. Number 4 guys, and that is get your hospital bag ready beforehand. The reason is, for example, with us, so we went to the hospital to have my wife's blood pressure checked, and at the time, due to the problems that she was having with our FMLA, her blood pressure was a little high. She was about 9 months pregnant, her blood pressure was a little high, so because of that, the doctors decided that they were going to induce her right then and there. And so what I ended up having to do is go home, get our hospital bag, and now we did have ours ready, but here's the thing that we discovered, right? We overpacked, and it's funny because the hospital, I kind of paid attention to other females who had a baby and as they were leaving, and one thing I noticed is so many females overpacked. I even saw a lady with 3 to 4 suitcases. Can you imagine, like, you're gonna have a baby and you have 4 suitcases? It was insane. And when I saw this, I was watching her husband lug all the stuff around, and it was just kind of comical because I saw him struggle with this. But anyway, so what we ended up using was her toothbrush, her deodorant, some other toiletries, you know, like just like her brush and things like that, and then one other change of clothes. So the day we were released from the hospital, my wife had fresh clothes to put on. One thing watching all these other videos is a lot of these ladies will tell you you need this and this and this, but guys, remember, you're there to have a baby. So guys, don't overpack, keep it simple. The reason I tell you that is because, you know what, I know you're self-conscious possibly, you know, because you're having a baby and you're gonna have some visitors, but you know what, here's my advice. Just have your immediate family, maybe your mom or your dad, you know, your sister or brother, but your extended family, just tell them you'll see them when you come home. Remember, you're having a baby and you want it to be low stress. Number 5 on my list, and that is keep it simple. And the reason is, a lot of these influencers and these companies, they'll convince you that you need that item or this item with all the bells and whistles, but really when you're sleep deprived, all you want is something that is very easy to understand. So for example guys, I bought a carrier based on what the reviews and all the influencers said, and let me tell you, this thing is super complicated to put on. So eventually I threw my hands up in there and I bought this $20 one from Walmart, and let me tell you, it was so simple, easy to put on, and guess what? My son, within 10 minutes of using it, he falls asleep. The thing that I've noticed with companies is that they tap into the parents through emotion. So they make you believe that you need the most expensive item. Number 6 on my list, and that's a co-sleeper. And you're probably wondering what that is, because as a guy, I didn't know what that was. So for those of you who are watching this and don't know what it is, it's basically like a mini bed. It's a little bit bigger than your baby, and you can put them in there. And then you can take that co-sleeper and put it on your bed. Now, I know a lot of people tell you you should put your baby in a crib, but let me tell you guys, this is way better. And the reason is, you know what, when you first have your child, the first 2 months, you're gonna be feeding them every 2 to 3 hours. So can you imagine that at nighttime, you're getting up every 2 to 3 hours to feed your child. Then after you feed them, you have to hold them for about 30 minutes, so that way they have time to digest the food. 2 to 3 hours later, you gotta do it all over again. So can you imagine, you're not gonna be sleeping much, you're gonna be very tired, and when you are sleeping, the baby might be like crying. So you have 2 options. You can get a co-sleeper, or you can put them in the crib. And if you get a crib and they're crying and you have to get up to comfort them, think about it for a second. You're tired, you got to get up, walk over, standing in front of the crib, you know, standing over the baby, and try to reassure them or hold them. But with the co-sleeper, you'll be laying in bed. What we did is we put them at the head of our bed, and so if our son cries in the middle of the night, we kind of just, you know, put our hand over him, just kind of reassure him. Or he has a pacifier, so we'll take the pacifier, put it in his mouth. And the other thing that we found is with our smartphone, we have a little white noise that we play, and that thing reassures him, and he, you know, now has his pacifier, has his white noise, and guess what guys, it's all done without us having to get out of bed. So it makes it much more comfortable for us. So alright guys, so let's say you're not going to co-sleep, right? I still recommend you guys get it, and let me tell you why. It's very compact and you can actually fold it up and take it with you. So let's say you're going to be upstairs or downstairs, you can like take it with you and put your child on it and they can sleep. Here's another example. So when I need to go grocery shopping, what I'll do is drop my son off at my brother's house and he'll watch him for me. And the thing is, they don't have a crib, so what I'll do is I'll take the co-sleeper with us and leave it at my brother's house. That way my son has a safe place to sleep. Number 7 on my list is similar to the OB, and that is make sure you have your pediatrician ready to go, because for us, we found a pediatrician, we are very happy with them, but what I would recommend for you guys is make sure you take the time before your child is born to find the right pediatrician. Same reason like I told you with the OB. You want to make sure you find one that's ideally a private practice instead of like a corporate place, because you want to build that relationship with the doctor, right? You want your doctor to know you, you want to know your doctor, and your doctor definitely needs to know your child. And that's the only way it's ever going to happen, is when you go to like a practice that really has great customer service, and is not just doing it because, you know, for the money, but because they really love children. Number 8 on my list, and that is TJ Maxx and Marshalls. And the reason is a lot of baby clothes and baby gear, they actually sell it, and it's very good pricing, because the same stuff you can find at Target, at Walmart, or other baby stores like Babies R Us, you'll find at TJ's and Marshalls for a huge discount, and they have a vast selection. So for us, a lot of the stuff that was available at Target, we found at TJ's for like 50 to 75% off. Because remember guys, your child is going to grow up quickly, so the infant clothes, probably after 2-3 months, they won't even fit into it. So why pay full price? Go to TJ's, go to Marshalls, and save yourself a lot of money, so that way when you save a lot of money, you're able to reinvest that savings into future clothes. Number 9 on my list, and that is no pants. So what do I mean by that? You know, your infant, he's going to be wearing diapers, you're going to be changing it a lot, and I know it's very like tempting because they look so cute in it, and you're going to want to buy like a million pants just to, you know, put it on, and it's like a mini you, right? You want to probably buy it so it matches, like you and him match, or you and her match. But a lot of the time what we found is our son is not wearing pants, right? He's wearing his onesie, and the reason is you have to change his diaper all the time, and so what's the point in putting pants on? Or when you're going out, what's the point? Because you're gonna have to change the diaper. So what we would recommend is the onesies or the sleep in place. So if you were like me and you don't know what that is, it's like a footy pajama. I'm gonna put a picture up here so you know exactly what I'm talking about, because when I was learning about the world of like kids, I found some of these names to be very, you know, hilarious, right? What they call it. Because as a guy, you're just kind of like, you know, but you got to go with the program, right? Because it's a mom's world. Number 10 on my list, and this is something that gave me a lot of headache besides the OB, and that was our FMLA leave. So like I told you guys, we stopped working around Christmas time, and when we contacted the FMLA, they started the process. What ended up happening is my employer at the end of the year, they switched the company they were using for FMLA. So we had to call the new company and start the process all over again. And what ended up happening was the new company did not want to handle our FMLA, told us we had to go to the old company, and then the old company didn't want to handle it, told us we had to go to the new company. And so it was kind of like hot potato for a while. And then on top of that, until this was resolved, they wanted us to have our doctor fill out the FMLA form and mail it in. So as you can imagine, now it became a headache also for our doctor. And pretty much guys, it was a pain in the butt. I wish I had started it much earlier, probably like I would say October, November, so that way come January I wasn't dealing with it. Because guys, we didn't resolve this until after our baby was born. I do want to say though, the employees from both companies, they were very helpful, they were very polite, supportive, because you know what, they're not like bad people, they're just following company policy. And so make sure you communicate with them, because they went above and beyond to help us, even though it was a lot of red tape. Alright guys, that's my top 10 list. There's not a lot of bad things about our pregnancy that I could change. You know, we've been, I will say this, very fortunate, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that we were prepared, right? And that's what I would recommend to you guys. If you're gonna have a baby, start preparing a year beforehand. I really hope everything that I'm doing here is very helpful to you guys. If you haven't done so already, make sure to give me a like, hit the notification bell, and then also stay tuned for more videos from Fatherland.